Okay, we are live. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined this morning by my special co-host, Miss Deidre Payne. Miss Payne, all the way from Orange County, Westminster, California. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
You see on the screen it says freecpsreport.com.
Yes.
Have you ever gone to that website?
I want to say I did, but I don't remember what was on there then, so maybe I haven't.
Okay. When you see things flashing across the screen, do you take interest in them at all and go to them or no?
Yes, most likely most of the time I do. I don't know why I have never really went forward with this one.
No. I don't even know
Because
if
now
that.
you're putting me on the spot because you're going to say what you can get from going here.
So let me see if it's still working. Yeah, I can't. It's not working.
Oh, yes, that's exact. I'm not just making this up. I did click it, and I meant to tell you. I don't know if it was me or if it was the site, but it said something along those lines that it's not up to something, or I don't remember what, but I did click it actually.
Huh.
What are you
I,
supposed to get?
a report, free CPS report
Like of my my case?
for any case.
So I could just type in like Darren Guy and I would get his case?
No.
Oh, see, that's what I mean. It's well, honestly, from the looks of what it's advertising as, freecpsreport.com, it would make me think that I could put in my information, like my case number or whatnot, and I would get a free copy of my like what you call, I don't know, transcripts or something.
Huh.
But that's obviously not what you would get then, right?
No. 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 Hey, we had a host. I mean, not a host. A special guest today, and she had a death in the family this morning, so she couldn't appear. She's going to appear
Oh my
probably
gosh.
later this week. So we don't have a guest. Mr. Guai is not here. He's MIA, missing in action. And we had a replacement host, Mr. Mike Bartz, but I think he can't. I don't think he can start his computer. You know how those airports are.
Ah, Lordy.
But anyway, so let's do a short show this Sunday. You get to ask me any questions you want.
Oh, thank you, because you told me the other day that I get the pleasure of being a host and asking questions. So just I wanted to ask when somebody is now or has adopted a child or is a legal guardian and they are getting funds every month. You have mentioned before in past shows that, the funds could stop at any point or they could get it till like the kids are 18. But with having said that, what technically are they still held up to as far as a standard, if you want to call it? Meaning, does anybody ever check in with them, a social worker or anybody for that matter, to make sure that number one, they still have the kids in their placement, or it's just a computerized thing where they just keep getting this money, and then it could cut off? Or, I mean, what I guess keeps the money coming for that matter?
Okay. So let me tell you this. It's different for adoption and legal guardianship. Okay.
Okay.
For adoptions assistance, when you adopt a child, you may only get the funding, the assistance for about 2, maybe 3 years. And it's actually in a document that you sign and you say that you understand it. So all those papers the social worker shoves under your nose and says, "Oh, just sign this." And you
Yes.
never read them and you
Yeah.
just sign it. Well,
Hmm.
that's the one of the documents. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, after you've adopted the child, made the child your own, you
Hmm.
stop funding is stopped after a couple of years. And then you're like, well, what happened?
Yeah.
You know,
What if the person
I
said, I don't want to adopt unless I'm guaranteed funding until they're 18? Can they try and demand that? Or
no,
no? Oh, okay.
because it's not the county's money. It's actually federal money. But, I knew a social worker, this is years ago, that worked for the county of Los Angeles. And her
Mhm.
job was to go around reducing funding for, I think it was adoptions and or foster care. So, sometimes I once had a client that had special needs and they were getting, say, I think it was $3,000 a month. And
Mhm.
this lady's job was to go around and basically cut it in half or reduce it as much as they could. So when they tell you, yeah, you're going to be getting this money, don't believe it.
But like with
Interesting.
legal guardianship, how
Hold
do they
on.
know that? Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sorry. Sorry.
Interestingly enough, if you get legal guardianship, you get the
Mhm.
funding until the kid turns 18. So,
But how
you
do
know,
they know that that legal guardian still has the children in their care?
oh, they're supposed to go like once. I don't know if it's every 6 months or once. It's not once a month, I don't think, but once every 6 months or once a year, the social worker is supposed to go and check on how things are going.
Oh, so that's what I was asking. Meaning, is there a periodic
Yeah,
check-in or
yeah,
yeah?
yeah. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know.
Have you ever heard of any cases that kind of do what I'm probably going to ask as far as legal guardianship gives the kids back to biological family, but they just like split the money or just keep the money coming so that
Okay. Here's someone that says, we adopted our kids at 2, 3, and 4. They are now 15, 16, and 17. We are still getting our adoptions assistance.
well, don't call yourself out.
Now, um, what I would ask her is, are there any recent items or issues happening where they want to take the kids away from you? You thought it was because of maybe allegations they were making, and all the time it was probably financial. A lot of times people get funding like this and they're forgotten about.
Hmm.
And then years later, someone says, "Oh, we got to do an audit." Hey, and what's Susan? What's she doing? She's
Yeah,
getting all that
exactly.
money? Oh my God,
Yeah.
we got to stop that.
Meaning, Susan, what did you just say that for?
Yeah. So you got to watch out for those type of things. A lot of times people don't realize that CPS may be coming after them, and it's a purely economic thing. you know but when they come after you, they can't claim it's because of money or economics. They got to make some stuff up, right?
Well, that's what I would think in a legal guardian situation. You would think that they would not want to push that because if they were to give me my kids back, they would stop giving that money to my mom. But because they're going to go ahead and let my mom keep the kids, look at all that money. I mean, I just simply did the math for, she's had my kids for 3 years and the amount she gets per month, she's up to like $86,000
Yeah,
for
but
3 years.
the issue is this: that money isn't county money, it's
It's federal.
federal money. So the county social worker doesn't care what your mom's getting. I'm going to tell you something. Back in about 1988, 89, when they passed the law to make adoptions of foster children very easy, one of the reasons was, and you can look up this through the legislative history for Congress. One of the reasons was because all these grandmothers were becoming legal guardians of the child. And
Mhm.
with legal guardianship, they had to support the child from, say birth to 18.
Mhm.
That was a lot of money for the federal government to be paying out. So what
Yeah.
happened, they decided, oh, you know Um, what we should do is we should force these people to
To
adopt
adopt.
these
Yeah.
children. And how do we force them? Oh, we decide that it's now best for children to be
Mhm.
adopted. And we come up with a whole big argument about adoption and how great it is. And then after 2 or 3 years, snip, 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 no more adoptions assistance. That's your kid now.
Yeah.
You know, I recommend a book all the time to people, and I should get an Amazon link as an affiliate. It's called the Economic Analysis of the Law.
Of the law. Yeah.
Yeah. You think that a lot of laws are passed for the good of society, and that's not necessarily true. What happens is laws are passed that impact government financially and economically, and then they fashion a rationale around it to tell us why it's such a great thing. Like, this system was in place for decades before Clinton passed the law to make adoption so easy. Why did they do that? You think they just discovered adoption was better than legal guardianship? No. And if you think about it, think about this. Why would grandma want to become mother?
And then mom becomes sister.
Right. You think that doesn't fuck up a child?
Yeah, really.
All of a sudden, your grandma is now your mother, and your mom. Oh, that's your sister now. How do you,
Hmm.
how do you explain that? And all your aunts and all your uncles, they're your siblings now.
Yep.
Explain that one at a cocktail party.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, before '89, it was okay for
Oh,
grandma to be grandma, but now we
hmm
want grandma to be mommy because it's better for the child. And you say to yourself, well, really? It's better? Why is it better? Oh, because we say it is.
Yeah.
And I watched this whole thing back in the late '80s, early '90s be sold to attorneys, to judges, and like this is the magic bullet we've been waiting for to help kids. It was
Well,
a
and
big
that's a
it was a big sales
good.
job. It was a big sales
Well,
job.
I was going to tie into the fact that they want us to take, all these parenting classes and go to therapy and basically how to try and make you a better parent or, try to make your family home better so you could be reunified with your child. But in reality, in my case, they're trying to tell me I'm not going to get my child back unless I leave my husband. So right away, they want to divide the parents. And then, they want to tell you things like this in a way where, at the end of the day, they're trying to tell the grandma or basically the kids that, yeah, they would be better off with you and like go that route for the rest of your life than pushing the normalcy of thinking, no, we need to do everything we can to get these parents back home with their parents, and be raised that way. It's just they do everything kind of hypocritical of what then you're technically trying to go to all these resources and get information and learn about. So it's like,
Have you ever seen something in your life where you're being sold and you find out decades later that that message was never true?
all the
And they
time.
and they get experts to come in and testify and to say, "Oh yeah, this is true. This message is true, 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 true." Right? Well,
Hmm.
that's what's happening with these adoptions, making them so easy. They've
Hmm.
sold the public, the judiciary, the attorneys, the minors' attorneys, on the idea that adoption is the best plan. They even have some experts and studies to say this is true. Okay. But I can tell you in my experience, and I've only been doing this, 34 years, it's not necessarily true in every case. Does it work sometimes? Yeah, it does. It does. Does it not work sometimes? Yeah.
more,
And
more than
guess what? Nobody wants to talk about those failed adoptions. Nobody wants to do a long-term study on some kid that was adopted by grandma and now has mommy.
But
Nobody wants.
who's coming out more, I feel like you said, are the actual children that lived that life. And
Right.
now they have to talk about it because they were traumatized so much. But I read just literally yesterday, I was trying to look up the article about why these people, these children that were actually the victim, why they're the ones that now have to be the one to come out and talk about it. Shouldn't it be the people that actually were doing like the trauma, to these kids instead of the other way around. But
Well, this happened like in 89 or 90, early 90s. So those people are now becoming adults,
yes.
and they're now beginning to talk out about the social experiment. Hey, Mike Bartz, we have Mike Bartz as a co-host this morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. We have Mike. You're coming from all the way from North Carolina, right?
North Carolina, correct? Yes, sir.
What city?
Hi, Miss Deidre.
Hello, good morning or good afternoon for you.
Yeah.
What city, Mike?
I'm right outside Charlotte, North Carolina. It's called it's a small town called Gastonia.
Okay. I'm not sure I've ever heard of that.
From a movie, I think, right?
I didn't hear about it until I got here. So
Hey, Mike, you know what? I was thinking, all the co-hosts that we have and hosts that we have on this platform, I was thinking about having a weekend retreat.
Yes.
What do you think about
Where
that?
we all get to be in person, Mike.
no touching me, though. You ever see that show? You touch me, I'll kill you. From Stripes.
6 feet.
Yeah, from Stripes. Never mind. But yeah, I would love to do something like that. Is it going to be halfway point between coast to coast, or is it going to be all in Cali, or what?
I mean, you don't want to come to Cali?
You don't want to be in his lovely house right there?
I used to live in California, or in San Bernardino County.
Oh, what do you know?
Why did you leave?
I was discharged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was stationed at George Air Force Base, the base out in Victorville, California, and also spent a lot of time at Edwards Air Force Base. And then when I got out, I went and worked for a law firm downtown LA at the B of A Tower.
No way.
Yeah, I was a receptionist. That's when I had hair.
Hey. Did you see Mike in downtown LA? Did you scare away all the clientele?
Hey, Mike, what was your MOS? I forgot what you told me.
I was an air traffic controller.
Okay.
472.
This was after Reagan, right?
Actually, I went in just as Reagan fired all the controllers.
Now, what did you get to do? Were you a replacement?
I got to do a little bit of replacement. I wasn't there long before he hired a bunch of military controllers. But I went to Lackland Air Force Base, of course, for basic training. And then I went to Biloxi, Mississippi for tech school. And right out of tech school, I got sent to Hartsfield in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was a coffee runner, and I was losing hair. So I know it's stressful.
Were you in support of the strike or against the strike?
At the time, I was against it. I can understand it now, but back then I didn't understand it. But then again, I was 18, 19 years old. I mean, what the heck do I know?
Well, at that time, you thought you knew everything, right?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I just wanted to move 10. That's all I wanted to do.
But
yeah, so I worked for a law firm downtown LA, a very big law firm.
How long did that go for you?
That went actually really well. Believe it or not, I used to be really pretty, and working at that law firm, I actually got a modeling contract.
Oh, shoot.
Did you really?
I modeled for Chris Craft. I'm sure you've heard of Chris Craft.
The boat?
The boats, yep. I used to drive the boats and make them splash and try to throw the models off the front end of it. It was a lot of fun.
We should look some videos up of Mike. That would be hilarious. He's Googling it right now. You can tell Mr. Davis.
Well, wait a minute. Deidre. They didn't have video back then. What are you talking about?
I'm sure if you Googled it right now, you would find one. I guarantee you. Or I'm sure Mike can send you one.
Unless they have archives somewhere, because that was back in the mid 80s. I was in LA in the mid 80s.
You make it seem like they didn't have internet in the 80s.
We did.
Did they?
Well, now I'm going to be determined.
Wait, what year were you born?
83.
There was no internet. There was no internet.
There was no internet.
As a
I
matter
don't think we got
Okay.
internet until
As a
I
matter
don't
of
think
fact,
we got
All
internet
right.
until the early 80s, did we?
No,
Oh, Lordy.
it wasn't even early 80s.
Or
But
early 90s, I mean.
I remember in law school, I purchased my first computer, an Epson desktop, and it was it used those floppy disks.
Were you on AOL?
Yes, I know those.
Yeah.
Where it'd like dial up. And it's like all that noise in the background, like. Oh, Lordy.
Hey, Mike, there used to be a boat.
Look at this. I'm looking up Chris Craft right now. Did
I
you
don't
see
know.
that?
I don't know
Can't
if
see it
it
because
was
of the light.
I don't know if it was a Chris Craft, but it was like made out of some type of redwood.
It says models, and I clicked it. See that model right there? Is that you, Mike?
Am I gonna have to mute Deidre or what?
Yeah, probably.
She's all
And I just
excited.
woke up like 10 minutes ago. My alarm went off late.
And
Let me
she's
mute her while I
excited.
try to get this sentence out. Mike, there was a boat that looked like, I don't know if it was a Chris Craft, but it was red. It was really sleek, really popular on lakes. Do you remember what that model was called?
Made out of wood. It was driven by presidents.
Yes.
It was actually, yes, it's called a Woody. It's called I mean, for obvious reasons, it was called a Woody. But yeah, they were gorgeous boats, highly shined up.
Right.
I mean, just lacquered to the nines. But President Kennedy made that boat famous.
You know, in The Godfather, they had, when they were on the lake, I don't know, Lake Tahoe,
Right.
they were driving one of those boats somewhere in the movie.
Yeah, I mean those. I didn't get to drive one of those. I got to drive the newer models, the mid 80 models. But those boats you're talking about came out in the 60s.
Oh, okay. Was that a Chris Craft though?
Yeah, it was they are Chris Crafts. It looks just like that, exactly.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway.
But they were gorgeous, and they handled like a dream too. And
Hey, Jay, hold on. Let me tell. Jay says I'm a hard person. I think Jay may be talking about me and not Deidre, but you are a hard person to get a hold of. And Jay, you see bottom right hand corner, 888-888-6582. You can call that number 24/7. A live person will answer, and if necessary, make an appointment for you. Okay. So a lot of people call me and think I'm just sitting around at the office, and I'm not.
Yeah, but you know what? Melissa said that too to me the other day. She said that she tried for so long in the beginning of her case to get in contact with you, and that she would call like those numbers, and that the office people would always kind of give her the runaround.
Really? Was she asking? Was she asking to speak with me, or was she asking to leave a message?
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Yeah. See, that's it. A lot of people call and they insist on speaking with me right then and there.
Oh,
and,
yeah, no.
Even though it's Monday at 8:30 p.m., they don't believe that I'm not in the office, and I'm not. Like right now, I'm not in the office. I'm at Deidre's house. You see her very nice background there? Right?
Good job, Mr. Davis. Good job.
All right.
Now,
So, Mike, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. Our guest for today had a death in her family, unfortunately.
Oh, bless.
Our condolences. And she wants to come on next week. So what Deidre's going to do is Deidre's going to ask me some questions.
Wait, this is Mike. Wait, Mike? That's, why won't it work?
Hey, Deidre, we've moved on from that topic.
Yeah, we're way.
I'm still trying to convince you there was internet in the 80s when there wasn't. Okay, I'm going to shut up.
I mean, that's like, you analyzing your case.
Hey. Dun, where's Darren for the sound effects?
keep up with the combo, okay? We've moved on.
Where is Mr. $1 Million Studio?
We don't know.
We don't know.
He's missing in action. Missing in action. Okay, so as I was saying, Deirdre's going to ask me a couple questions, and I'm going to go to you for a couple questions. We'll go back and forth as long as we can this morning and try to give these people who are watching some information other than just our raw comedic entertainment talent. Okay?
It comes natural when I show up on your show.
Okay, Deirdre, do you have any other serious questions for me?
I did ask you the one already about like the funding, so I guess that answered that one. So I guess another question would be as far as, here's a good one. Okay, you mentioned before that children of maybe a certain age could technically voice if they want to go back home. Is there technically a law or like an age limit where yes, they can say I want to go home and it has to be, or how does that work?
In CPS cases, there's not really a law, but there's common law. And in cases where kids are a certain age, the court has to start listening to what they want. Doesn't mean the court has to do what they want, but the court has to at least consider it. All right. So
Okay.
that's basically the concept. And that's the law in California. Do other states follow that? I'm not sure.
Okay.
All right. Mike, you got a question for me?
Yeah, I have my case is coming up for a hearing on Tuesday, the 26th, and it's the permanency hearing. Is there anything I could possibly be caught off guard by?
Oh, a lot of things.
Oh, great. So I'm not going. Is that what you're saying?
Well, do you have a copy of the First of all, aren't your kids with the mother?
Yeah, my child's with her mother, but DSS has kept legal custody of my daughter and gave her physical custody.
Right, but at least in California, you can't have a permanency hearing when the child's in the parent's custody, at least one of the parents. It's called a 364
Well, like I said,
hearing.
they kept legal custody.
Doesn't matter. Well, in
If that makes
California, it
sense.
doesn't. Yeah, in California, that doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
But assuming that it is a permanency planning hearing for you, what you would want to do is you want to get a copy of the report, review it, review the recommendations, and then decide if you agree with them or if you don't agree with them, because there's two different strategies you want to follow. You know, they might agree to leave the kid with the mother and continue the case for another 6 months. They might recommend that they leave the kid with the mother and they terminate jurisdiction, close the case with a family law order giving mother custody and use some type of visitation. Or they could recommend the child be removed from the mother and removed from you, in which case they would be placed in relative or foster care.
Is there an opportunity for them to take her away from the mother and give her to me?
Oh, there is. Yeah, there is that opportunity.
Yeah.
If the social worker wasn't recommending it, the only way that you could make that happen is to have a trial, right? And present evidence, relevant, admissible evidence on that issue.
Now,
It's interesting. It's interesting you asked that question because that scenario very rarely comes up. But theoretically, it is possible for you to challenge the placement of your child. And in California, and I would guess in your state, I don't know, placement and visitation of a child is always at issue. So even if the worker wasn't recommending that the child be placed with you, in California at least, you'd have the opportunity to challenge that.
Now, this worker, the person that's named on the paperwork is the supervisor, is the CPS supervisor. And she is the supervisor that put my daughter in the house where she was neglected, or in the foster care home that she was neglected. I don't know. And I know she was investigated because, I got the results of the investigation. And I know she's been served with lawsuit because the attorney I got had her served. Why hasn't this woman removed herself from the case?
That I can't tell you.
But isn't that what they call that? Conflict of interest?
Probably, but you and your attorney will need to make a motion
But remember, he doesn't have one.
This is me.
They all left him. They all left him.
As I was trying to say, Mike, you would have to talk to your attorney to make a motion to have the social worker taken off the case and disqualified.
I plan on now, and this is me talking to my own attorney.
Mike, hold on a second. Do you do this to your husband?
That's why it's called the state, right?
Right. Okay.
I don't have a husband, but thanks for asking.
Oh shoot!
So you were going to ask a question, Mike, of yourself.
Yeah. Now I already spoke to my attorney, and we're going to bring it up in court at the permanency hearing. Is that unethical, or is that uncalled for? I mean, is it any way that I can get the judge to pay attention to that?
Well, you would get the judge to pay attention to it better if it was in writing, like a motion supported by points and authorities, supported by evidence, like a declaration. So, a lot of times people just think, oh, I'm going to mention it in court and the judge should follow the law. That's not necessarily true, because sometimes when you make an oral motion in court, you and the judge and the other attorneys may not be on the same page.
Right.
And you might not make the motion the right way. Like you make a motion, but you don't say what you want. You don't say what the law is. You don't have any evidence to back up your oral motion. That's why if you put it in writing and you put it under their noses, they all have to read it and respond to it. Now,
but the chances of them closing this case on Tuesday are looking really good. So I'm just hoping they close the case, and then it goes into family court and me and the wife fight, right?
Yeah, but if it was like California, you do have to show some substantial change in circumstances about custody and visitation. Right. Now, here's something that's interesting to me. I'll tell you a little tip and trick that I've seen over the years. Let's say you and the wife, let's say she's given full custody and you have monitored visits. But later on, or secretly, you guys are still friends. And instead of going to family law court and fighting about it, you prepare a stipulation, okay? And the stipulation says Mike is now going to have 50-50 custody of the kids. And then you get the stipulation signed by the judge, and it becomes a family law order. Okay. And then you really don't have to fight about it in family law court, and the social worker can't say anything because a judge has ordered this. It's kind of an end around of the social worker.
So even if they close our case on Tuesday, the social worker and the caseworker are still going to be involved in our lives?
No. Well, if you were in California, the answer would be no.
Right.
They're done. Finished. Kaput. Now, they may take personal interest if they're friends with the mom or something and keep in touch with her and like check on you. What's Mike doing? Is he bothering you?
Getting tased again?
Yeah.
Mike, aren't they holding it against you, though, that technically you don't have any means to support her because of the job issue? Didn't you say that?
But since, because of my brain surgery, if you can't tell, because of my brain surgery and my age, I'm actually running up against a bunch of roadblocks for employment. So what I've done is I filed for disability.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm prepared to sue my wife for spousal support. So that's two verifiable incomes.
Does she?
You don't think they'll hold that against you if you say that in court on Tuesday?
I'm sure they will. They'll find everything to find against me. I'm starting to take it personal. But I'm hoping.
Does your wife work?
Yes, she works for the Postal Service.
So you can get some spousal support there, huh?
Oh yeah. I think it's up to because of her income. I think it's somewhere around $1,300 a month, and that's pre-divorce.
You're still married to her, right?
Yeah, and that's pre-spousal support, and then of course it'd be redetermined and recalculated. Once we actually get divorced.
Can you get spousal support if you're not divorced?
Yeah, in North Carolina you can. It's called separation support or something like that.
Oh. So you're literally walking into court on Tuesday with like nobody by your side, right?
Zero.
Oh Lordy. I would be so scared, Mike.
And I can't even bring my cell phone if I need to call for a friend.
No lifelines?
No lifelines at all.
So when Mr. Davis said, look at your report and see what they're recommending as far as what to happen on Tuesday, do you know what they're recommending or?
Yeah, I have the report here.
So what is their recommendation?
Are they recommending the case close?
No, they're not. But from the last hearing, they're recommending that I stay out of trouble with the law enforcement because of the tasing. They're recommending that I have a means or an income, a means for an income. They recommended that I have parenting classes. And then they recommended domestic violence classes for me, but they crossed it out. They just crossed it out.
So did you do your parenting classes?
Yeah, I've got the certificate.
But you didn't do the domestic violence?
No, because it was crossed out.
See, if it was me, I would have probably done it either way because you know how they are. But so then with having said all that, let's say you did it all, then what would their recommendation technically be? Or that's not listed in your report?
It's not listed in the report.
So how do you know that they want to keep the case open then?
Well, I don't know if they want to keep it open. I'm hearing they want to close it.
Well, that's what I think Mr. Davis was asking you. Like, what are they? What is their recommendation? Meaning,
yeah, but I mean, the attorney I got to file the civil lawsuit. Of course, all attorneys talk. They talk amongst themselves, and she seems to believe that they're not going to close it from the information she's getting. But now my wife, who deals with DSS or CPS, and the gal, the guardian ad litem, on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, are telling her that they're going to close it. So I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Well, does the report recommend the case be closed?
No, it does not.
Okay.
but that's what I mean, Mike, kind of not to put you on the spot, but you're going both ways with saying, yes, they are recommending, but no, they're not. So does it really say in black and white, Mr. Davis, like this is the recommendation?
You think you're confused? I mean, I'm super confused because I mean,
that's why I'm asking for people out there. Like if they were to look at their report, Mr. Davis, does it literally say the recommendation from the social worker is case B remain open, or it's not like listed like that?
You're supposed to go by the report.
Let me grab it real quick. That way I can read it. I won't show it to you.
Because then shouldn't he, based off of whatever his report is recommending, go in there with the strategy, like you said, of based off of what they're recommending, then it makes you use a different strategy, right?
That's correct.
The report goes into this is the predisposition report. That's all I have.
What?
Disposition report.
Is that what the hearing is called on Tuesday? A disposition?
No, it's called a permanency hearing.
Yeah. Well, when did you get the last report from the social worker?
From my last case or the last court hearing.
When?
Uh, July 24th.
See, there's a new report that's out.
Oh, is there? Okay.
So they should have mailed it to you. You should probably email or text your social worker and say, hey, where's the most recent report? This is what happens sometimes that I do in cases. Okay. I'll show up. Well, this happened. It happened last week in San Diego. I show up for a trial, and there's about 5 reports that have been published to use against my client. Well, they filed a new report that day. And I told the judge that I would want that report excluded from evidence because reports given to me the day of the hearing or the day of the trial should not be admissible. It's called trial by surprise. A lot of people don't know to object to those. And I bet if they hand you the report on Tuesday, you won't know to object to it.
I do now.
Yeah, you do now. So here's the remedy. The judge leaves it out of, doesn't consider the report, or they continue the case so that you can review the report and determine what you want to do. Now, are either of those in your best interest? It depends. It may be your interest to go forward with the case that day, especially if they're recommending termination. But then you have the issue of, well, what kind of custody and visitation am I going to have? And do I want to fight for that here in juvenile court, or do I want to fight for it over in family law court? You follow me?
I do. Now,
Okay.
Where things get switched up is regardless of the report that is actually handed in or issued that day. Just from my own experience, I've been called into the little back room, little side office with the prosecuting attorney, and it becomes a negotiation.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
then
like
they go out.
mediation, yeah, to try and
No, it's not It's not a mediation. It's a negotiation where they either say yeah, no, or get a life.
Yeah, but see, the problem is, Mike, and I don't want, I'm not putting you down,
Right.
but for you to try to negotiate with a skilled attorney in this area of law, you're going to be taken advantage of, and you're not even going to know it.
I'm easy like that, boss.
That's what I heard. I heard you were easy like that.
At least I know to move away from the toilet when I pass out.
So those are things you got to consider.
I understand. But yeah, I'm just hoping that they at least, at the very, I hope they kill jurisdiction. I hope they cancel jurisdiction. I really
What
do.
is your wife wanting it to go down as?
And the heated conversations that we've had, I'm getting the indication that she wants it to go away. She wants it to stop. She wants to have DSS stop involved. But where she's getting frustrated is I want 50-50 legal and physical custody of our daughter until she's of school age.
And she doesn't want you to have that?
No, she doesn't. She says I haven't fought hard enough for her.
Okay, but it's not, honestly, when she walks in there on Tuesday, you guys can't have a civil enough conversation to really just kind of both come together and say, okay, what are you going to go in there and say so that I can say, so that we can have our daughter basically have what's best at the end of the day? You can't get to that level. It's too much.
Well, no, I would love to have that conversation. I encourage us to have that conversation.
But that's what I mean. It just can't happen though before Tuesday.
I'm trying to win friends and influence enemies, or whatever that book is.
No, Mike, come on, seriously though. It's on Tuesday.
I'm dead serious. I would love to sit down with my wife and have a real heart to heart, and knock it out. I really would. I would really enjoy that. But as you might have figured, I tend to piss people off, so I know I would push a button or throw a dig or something. But
Mike, come on, seriously. I'm trying to help you in a way where I'm being on the outsider. I mean, I know what it would be on the inside, and it's hard to always,
And
listen
I,
to words that you want to give. But I would seriously want to call her after the show if I were you and be like, okay, come on. Like, it's Tuesday, and we both need to know, like, where we're going to both walk in to do, knowing that you don't have an attorney. Don't you
100%.
think?
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. That's as far as I can go, is 100%. I mean, I can't agree more than that. But yes, I do, and I will attempt it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't see us going into court with an agreement before Tuesday.
Hey, Mike, I disagree completely with Deirdre's suggestion.
No.
And I'm not saying that jokingly. I seriously disagree with it. And the reason is because you haven't laid the groundwork to have that type of conversation. Okay. And you can't force her to have that conversation just, completely out of the blue. Right. So,
Understood.
that may be one of the roots of your problem with the wife or the ex-wife. So many times, we guys want to fit a square peg into a round hole. We have a poor understanding of women, just a poor
Amen.
understanding. So, for you to do that, I say don't do it. It's too late. You haven't laid the groundwork. Now, can you do it in the future? I'm sure, but you're going to have to lay the groundwork. But here's the other thing, Mike. You're not the type of guy that would do that. No, I'm being serious. I'm being serious. We talked about this the other day on the show. You're ex-military, ex-Air Force. You fought for the country. You served time for the country so we can have the freedoms that we have. In the back of your mind, you really think that you should be given different respect and are owed something. Now, I'm not saying you're not, but nobody else thinks that. The people you're dealing with in the court system, they don't give a damn what you did in the Air Force. And you keep thinking, well, they should, because I fought for this country and you have the freedoms that you have because of people like me. They don't care. So when you are able to accept the fact that they don't care and you're not going to be able to change their mind, you're not going to be able to move forward until then.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a whole lot of sense. And I don't know if I walk around with an air of entitlement because of my
But you know what?
service.
I think it's something subconscious,
Okay.
or
I can
you
hear
may
that.
not even know about it. So,
Right.
here's the thing. I've talked to many servicemen and former servicemen, in divorce cases, in CPS cases. There was a time I did a lot of representation of Marines and sailors down in the San Diego area,
San Diego. Right.
and I got to know them, fairly well. And these people, they look at life with honor, um, country, and God, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's the way they were trained psychologically. And when they get out, they forget that the rest of us don't have that training and we don't think like that.
Right. And I believe I still look at the world like that. I agree with you 100%. I mean, I know I look at the world like it should be all about honor, loyalty, respect. I mean, that's how, I mean, that's how I was, raised in the military. I went in there at 18. So, I mean,
Right.
and I went in there a
Well,
young man.
that says it all. That's who you are. But the problem is, and when you got out, other people are not like that.
Right.
They're not like that. Now, I'm not saying they're wrong and you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong or they're wrong and you're right.
Right.
I'm not saying that. It's just that people are so different. And you have to, as Jerry Spence would say, you have to cater to your audience. You have to understand your audience. And every day you get up and every day you go and deal with a different person, your audience is different. But
And
you're the same. But you're the same. And that's the problem.
and I
You're
know
never
this dog, and I know this dog has no fight, no fight or no reason to be in the fight. But I also believe that my generation versus the current generation is a big difference and plays a lot into my attitude and my, my gumption, I guess I want to say, or my sass. I was raised a baby boomer. I am a baby boomer.
That's where you messed up with your millennium.
And we're raised to love our grandparents and respect the elderly and be loyal and do business on a handshake. I mean, that's how we were taught. And today's generations, who I'm married to, a millennial, is not raised like that. It's all about, and I mean, in the court, I have caseworkers that are young enough to be my children. I mean, I'm older than my wife's mom and dad.
That's what I mean. That was your first mistake, the millennial.
Mike, here's the thing, and I say this with all seriousness. If you want to win, and this is not coming from me, this is coming from Jerry Spence, maybe one of the greatest trial lawyer in our country ever. All right? You have to understand your audience if you want to win, and you have to cater to the audience. You know who's really good at this? Politicians. They could be talking to a group of Christians. They could be talking to a group of African Americans. They could be talking to a group of Latinos. And the message, it shifts. They cater to their audience. Why? Because they need the vote. They want the vote. And that's what you need to do when you're in court. You have a judge. And that's a certain audience. And, on the internet, you can look up your judge. Now, if the judge was ex-military, okay, you guys are going to get along fine. But what if she's not, or he's not ex-military? You're not going to get along fine unless you make adjustments. They're not going to make the adjustment, Mike. You got to make it. And that sounds like one of the issues with, the relationship with your wife or your ex-wife. You're a baby boomer. You're ex-military. She's a millennial. That's a whole different audience. And you probably talk and relate to her or want to relate to her like she's a baby boomer.
Like she's a child.
Ain't gonna happen. Mike, when you married her, how old was she?
Pardon me?
How old was your wife when you married her?
24.
Oy.
So there was 24 years of learning and conditioning before you. I was watching a video the other day on YouTube, and it was a psychologist saying, when you and your wife divorce, it's probably because of things that happened in your childhood or in her childhood. And people get divorced because, they don't know or don't want to work on those issues. That's basically the cause of most breakups, right?
Right.
But if you could learn how to, understand your audience and keep it on track, and be that type of person, you're going to increase your chances of success in doing anything. That's why I recommended that book to you.
Yeah. My biggest issue is, one, I have a hard time forgiving and forgetting. I mean, that's my number one issue. If I could forgive and forget, then it would probably be a totally different story. But two, I believe black and white. I mean, it's black and white. My world's black and white. Right is right, wrong is wrong.
Mike, that is true from your eyes.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, but it's not true from the person you're talking to.
Right. I mean, they have grace. I don't. I mean, and I understand that. I just can't figure out how to change myself to accept their point of view.
You want to know something that has kind of,
Then Mike,
I think, worked with.
Mike, you
Go
know what?
ahead.
If that's true, you're going to have a hard life.
I have had a hard one.
Yeah. Well, you should try to make the last 30 or 40 years a little bit easier.
God, please tell me it ain't gonna be that long.
Okay. Next 10 years.
There we go. I'll work with that one.
But you know what? If you enjoyed things more and people more, you might want to do another 20 or 30.
I was just
Well,
going to say what kind of has worked for me and, my lovely husband that is called the saint, maybe for a reason, but we both from our childhoods came from broken families and were so, I guess, in a way, technically traumatized by that feeling of growing up with having, mom's house, dad's house, and obviously not liking it, that we knew both of us, no matter what, especially when we had our kids, that we didn't want to give that lifestyle to our kids. Granted, there's times when, believe me, I would probably think that I would be better off without him, and he feels the same. And we say things that actually portray that. But at the end of the day, we both always come back to the same thought of, no, that's not really what we wanted. It was just in the heat of the conversation. But I think it's kind of going in spectrum with your black and white. I mean, obviously, the gray always comes out because of, what did you really want at the end of the day, And most of the time I feel like husband and wives do want to stay together. They just don't know, like Mr. Davis said, how to kind of stay together as far as making sense of the grayness,
right.
Mike, one of the things I've learned in my own personal experiences, and it could be either my fault or someone else's issue as well. Ego gets in the way.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're talking to the ego king here. I mean, I'm just so cocky and arrogant, it's unbelievable. But and I know that plays a role. But until you two, until Mr. Davis and Deidre, until you guys started talking, I never thought about it. I grew up in a household where mother and father stayed together. Where the mother was the house and dad was the breadwinner. Dad went to work and mom stayed home, and and she did what she had to do. She did eventually go out into the workforce, but when we're young kids, mom stayed home, dad went and did what he did. And my wife came from a background where they're divorced when she was young and had to travel from Texas to North Carolina because of the family situation. I never took that into consideration, how she was raised differently than me.
Hey, we're coming to the end of the show, and Bianca Quesada has asked a lot of questions. Hey, Bianca, what I want you to do is I want you to call my number, 888-888-6582. It's there in the bottom right-hand corner. Make an appointment to try to talk to me later on this morning. The person that's on duty, if you tell them that I told you that on the show, they'll send me a text with your telephone number, and I'll give you a call. Okay? I don't want to leave you hanging. I know you got a lot of questions, and I want to get them answered for you. It's just that we don't have time this morning. Kind of got sidetracked. Yeah. So I apologize.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I dominated the show. I apologize for that.
No, you should, because your court date is on Tuesday. I'm worried for you.
And to be honest, I'm scared shitless. I really am. I'm really afraid.
Try and get a copy of your most recent report tomorrow, and maybe then you'll have more qualified questions for Mr. Davis before you go in there on Tuesday.
Yeah. Mike, what I would try to do is get the report tomorrow, have them email it or fax it or whatever, or you go to the office and pick it up. And, give me a call, because maybe we can talk about something
okay
about the report. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
I want to thank everybody for watching today. Mike and Deirdre, I want to thank you for co-hosting today. We will be on tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific time. The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. Everyone have a good Sunday.
And we also have Men in Trenches on tomorrow.
Oh, Men in Trenches are on tomorrow.
Don't forget his show.
Hopefully, Darren Guy from Maine will be back from wherever.
I'll rest my voice just in case if I talk the whole show.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.